Now it's time for No Pucks Given with Dan Kingerski of Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Penguin scoops locker room buzz and straight-up analysis. No fluff, all hockey. Now, here's Dan.
And away we go. Hi, it's Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms. Let me make sure the audio is correct. In fact, I just did a hit on Edmonton radio. So getting everything set and ready to roll here on this Penguins live chat. Lots to talk about. And I'm sure you always take me in very different directions than I expect to go. That's okay. We're all good with that. So here's what I've got on tap anyway. Last night, kind of wholesale roster changes for the Penguins necessitated by the three injuries. Noel Acciari out weeks. Justin Brazeau out 4 weeks. Tristan Jarry out at least 3 weeks. And so what that did was, first of all, I think a lot of you were excited, appropriately so, for the recall of Sergei Murashov, who just wins games, stops pucks. He 5-1 at the AHL level, the goalie for the month of October. So there is that to talk about, because I think that's not just a recall and plug and play. There's some storylines there. Danton Heinen gets recalled. Okay, I'm sure you're all, yawning at the exciting prospect there. Ryan Graves gets the recall because the Penguins also demote Owen Pickering. Oh, we're going to spend some time on that because your reaction to that is endlessly fascinating to me. Not just, kind of the shuffling, but the Owen Pickering reaction to me is, I don't get you all sometimes. It's you say you want one thing, you get one thing, and then you're like, nah, didn't really want that. I wanted that, but not that. So that's kind of how we are doing things today. Plus, of course, especially on YouTube, I'm not going to be checking the comments on X. If you're on X, you can watch the video. I want you to jump over to the YouTube page that I just tweeted out, and I'll be taking the comments, questions, criticisms, praise. Oh, lots of praise, always on the YouTube chat. So that's what we're going to do. I am home for like 5 days, and then we are off. I guess I'm not home because the Penguins have that down and back to New Jersey this weekend. I will be, of course, making the run back and forth. I haven't quite figured out the travel logistics yet. I'm always tinkering, trying to find the perfect way to do it. I might take the train from Harrisburg to Newark, so it means I drive from Pittsburgh to Harrisburg and get a hotel in Harrisburg so I actually get some sleep, or I might just cannonball and sleep on the plane to Sweden on Monday. I haven't yet figured all of that out. So we're going to talk about that. We're actually going to, I think the big topic, the umbrella sort of topic for everything is, what do the Penguins do now? 2 straight rough losses. I mean, they just weren't very good in Winnipeg, but then they bring their A game to Toronto and then absolutely run out of gas. I mean, they were brutal in that third period. Having said that, they're 8-4-2. Not exactly like they stunk up the joint this season. They're still, solidly in a playoff spot. And if they can continue this for a couple more weeks, that playoff percentage grows to like 75%, 80%. Do you take the let's call it 4 periods of stinker hockey, Winnipeg, 3 periods, and 1 period in Toronto, or do you take those 2 periods in Toronto as the true measure of the team? Which is it? That's I think that's the appropriate thing. Also, I'm sure you'll want to talk about Harrison Brunicke as well. The guys in Edmonton, I did Edmonton radio Wednesday morning, and they wanted to talk a bit about Harrison Brunicke. I talked a bit about that on the podcast, or actually a lot about that on the podcast. And for those of you who listened to it, I apologize. That was not my best. That was Dan sort of hanging on by a thread, kind of beaten up, worn out, tired. And that was the second take that I did, because the first one, the hotel internet was so bad that I had to just record it like right into the computer and then upload it. And I wanted to make some edits, and then it took 7 hours to upload because the hotel Wi-Fi was so bad. And well, I couldn't edit it, and I blathered like I'm doing now. Let's get into it, shall we? Let's first talk. You know what? I'm going to host choice here. We're going to put Sergei Murashov second on the list today. I want to talk about Owen Pickering. Yes. I don't necessarily understand the lack of enthusiasm for Pickering, either on the organizational side or on the fan base side. There seems to be just a complete lack of enthusiasm. Now, here's a guy who I thought played 20 pretty good NHL games last season, and then he began to scuffle and struggle. I think based on our reporting that has been confirmed with some real between-the-lines comments made publicly by the team about Pickering, that just his jovial nature ruffled some feathers on the inside. Can you imagine Happy upsetting people? But that's exactly what happened last year, and his play began to suffer. And now that's part and parcel to being a young defenseman. It's part and parcel to coming into a new environment you're so damned excited to be a part of. You think your life's finally on that track, and here we go, and you're ready to grab it with both hands, and some old people are like, I don't like your hair. That always sat poorly with me. It really did. Like, it really got under my skin. So he was okay in training camp. And as I talked with somebody, a trusted hockey advisor, let's put it that way, somebody who's played the game and really knows the game from the defensive side and the forward side and all of that. Right? He said, oh, yeah, Pickering was okay in training camp, but fine isn't good enough. So Pickering went down, played pretty well, Wilkes-Barre. He wasn't the Penguins' first choice to come back up, though. As we reported, Kyle Dubas was kicking tires on some spare part left-handed defenseman. And then when those talks sort of went nowhere, they called up Pickering. He had some okay games. I thought in Minnesota, he was really good, actually. He was cutting his shifts short, but he was making a lot of nullifications, a lot of slick little plays. He was doing those little things that young defensemen don't do, and perhaps making and not doing some of the bigger things that draw attention. Okay. Then he went to Winnipeg, and poof, that was a rough game. I'd invite you to check out the Pittsburgh Hockey Now conversation with him. We were talking with the young defenseman, and Pickering was very quick to give praise to Harrison Brunicke, his D partner, for really settling in after that first 3 minutes in Winnipeg when they were both a -2 and had some goal blood on their hands. I thought Brunicke especially had the goal blood on his hands, but Pickering was there and, maybe wasn't as supportive to his D partner because he's trying to figure out where to be and all, when chaos ensues, well, you just kind of grab a life raft. And so Pickering admitted, he's like, I wasn't panicking, but yeah, a couple shifts, up the ice, down the ice. And I just got off, trying to build some good shift, kind of build some momentum, get back in the game that way. the statistics kind of showed that he was jumping off way too early. His shifts were like 25, 30 seconds, especially in that first period. And when we've talked about his short shifts, and I don't know if this will get demonetized when I say this, but talking with Owen on Monday morning, I said, listen, I don't mean to ask you a dick question, but and he and I have talked enough times where I'm sure he knew something was coming. And I was like, I'm looking at your shifts, and your average shift time is like 35, 37 seconds. Are you trying to build some confidence there? You may be finding your legs. I thought that was a nice way of saying, what are you doing? Have you lost your confidence? He's like, no, listen, my confidence is fine. I've got that. They're telling me to keep going, keep pushing. But, he was trying to build good shifts. So do one good thing and get off the ice. That, to me, is a young player, though, who doesn't yet believe. I feel like Morpheus. Believe what you want to believe. And so he would do one good thing, have a shift without a mistake, and get off the ice before he made a mistake. And that's not how to live in the NHL as a defenseman. It goes back down to Wilkes-Barre after, he was meh in Toronto. I mean, his shift time actually went up 8 seconds. I don't know if the conversation with me drew his attention to just how short they'd been or not, because he said, no, the coaches aren't calling him over. That wasn't a coaching thing. His shift time was 44 seconds, a full 7 seconds longer than it was in Winnipeg. But he's in Wilkes-Barre now. I've been surprised by your reactions and how indifferent or cool to Pickering Penguins fans have been. I mean, here's kind of an underdog sort of guy. He was 6'2 3/4, $170 when the Penguins drafted him 3 years ago, and now he's 6'5", 200 pounds, still coming into his own. Still a long way to go. He's 21 years old. Penguins fans are like, I want the kids. Not that kid. Pickering is a stay-at-home defenseman, and he's not going to put up 40 points. Although I sometimes think he feels the pressure too. I really do. I think he feels that he needs to be more than what he is, and he really could be the next Marcus Pettersson. No, you're not going to play on your country's Olympic team, and you're not going to be an all-star or a Hall of Famer. You just help your team win night in and night out. I think when he embraces that, when the Penguins sort of embrace that for him, because I think they see kind of Paul Martin potential with him, where he can be a 35-point guy who plays in some shutdown roles and all of that. It's kind of a real all-round defenseman. And he's struggling to get to those top heights. And so I think the Penguins are a bit down on him. To send him back so quickly, let's transition here, because the answer to that question, sending him back so quickly, 4 games, was it? 3 games? 4 games? They are telling themselves, or they're putting themselves in the position that they want to win games, and they want the best option, not the young option. Perhaps part of that is also to balance Harrison Brunicke. Although in practice on Wednesday, now I'm not there. Obviously, you see me in the home studio. Shells had practice on Wednesday because I just needed a day to be at home, do laundry. I walked for breakfast Wednesday morning, and again, I must tell you, glorious. It was, I went for coffee. Actually, it was kind of bad coffee. I went to a new coffee shop, and I was like, ugh. They actually had their hot coffee in like a plastic lemonade pitcher. And I'm like, what are you doing? No. I digress. The recall of Ryan Graves tells me that the Penguins are now looking at winning. They're not going to go on nuts on the trade market. Don't think they're going to do that. Our new social media coordinator, or coordinators, actually, they're a pair of young brothers who've really kind of taken over our Facebook page, and I think they're doing a wonderful job. They were brilliant, actually. But they put one post on Facebook, I think it was Sunday, in which, like, should the Penguins go, will the Penguins start acquiring players on the trade market? Like, guys, let me pull you guys aside. That's not happening. If they go on the trade market, it will be for like an Eric Gustafsson in Detroit, who was waived, left-handed defenseman, plenty of experience, not a high ceiling, not a terribly low floor. That's what Dubas was looking for, kind of kicking tires. We know that Gustafsson was one of the players about which Kyle Dubas made some calls last, 10 days ago, trying to find, a veteran left-handed defenseman. Didn't really find anything. So anyway, to Ryan Graves, I think that's what we're seeing here. Also, I found it interesting looking at the lines from practice on Wednesday. Danton Heinen in the middle. I don't understand that. This is where I'm like, what do you? I think this is where you and I might strongly differ with the Penguins organization. Because, at least in practice anyway, Ben Kindel was up on Sidney Crosby's wing. You're like, okay, I don't like that, to be quite honest. Don't like it a bit. Let Ben Kindle be Ben Kindle as the third line center and some power play time. Don't subject him to playing with Sidney Crosby. I have no doubt he'll do it and do it well. I do doubt that's, what's he going to learn as a right winger playing with Sidney Crosby? And what are they going to do with Danton Heinen as your third line center? Why not call up Tristan Broz? If you need a third line center, Broz is your guy. So that maneuver, I almost combined the two words and just called it a mover. I think this is more Penguins tightroping. This is more tightroping where they're trying to be as competitive as possible without really breaking the bank to do so, without going out of their way to do so. Broz should be there. And if you take some lumps, that whole, I think being 8-4-2 has indeed adjusted Kyle Dubas's thinking, because otherwise Broz should be the third line center, Pickering your third pairing defenseman. If you want to call up Murashov, well, great. They could be 8 rookies deep in the lineup. What would that matter? Unless you're trying to win. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so we've done 18 minutes here on Pickering, on Graves, on Jarry. I thought Jarry looked a little bit, Jarry on the IR for 3 weeks. I thought he looked awkward on that backhand goal by Nylander. I think that made it 3-2. Yeah, that was 3-2. He kind of stood up and he was, he lost the puck, and just his entire technique broke down on that. I don't know if that's where he aggravated something, tweaked something, and then fought for the rest of the game to get through it. I don't know if it was lingering before the game or one of those things where you wake up the next morning and you're sore and something hurts and something was wrong. He was not available to us after the game, which is a departure from typical protocol in which the goaltender is always available unless it's just one of those nights. And I didn't think anything of it Monday night because that game, that loss 4-3 to Toronto, bordered on one of those nights. But then he's, I think we all expected Accari to be on IR for a while, and Justin Brazeau out 4 more weeks at least. Shelley will have the full story. Let's get to some questions here. And I reserve the right to veer off topic at any point and get back to the stuff I wanted to talk about. Let's go to Zachary. Not sure how to feel about playing Kindle on Sid's wing. Feel like they are going back to a 2-line team. He's been thriving at center. Give Zachary a cigar. That's exactly right. Drizzy, the Driz, says certainly seems like setting up for Brunicke to sit the required 5 games so he can get some AHL games. I don't know. Brunicke was part of the top 3 pairings at practice, playing with Matt Dumba. So, no, actually. I think they will probably make the final determination on Thursday, maybe Thursday morning, or they might scratch him. They might punt the decision a couple of more days. I do think a veteran lefty would do wonders for Brunicke. Just a guy that he trusts. Not that he didn't trust Pickering or doesn't trust Dumba. I do. The dual righties is not best for Brunicke. And yeah, and I don't want to say, he and Pickering actually, they were getting pretty close, personally, they talking a lot in the locker room. You see them laughing. They were together. They sort of formed a bond, but on the ice, I think they were both trying to figure things out. And it would certainly help Brunicke to have a guy who has figured it out. It's like, be here, do that, or go, yell over, go. Be a second set of eyes for some of the stuff he's seen. I'm not sure what you're referring to, though, there, Driz. Let's get to, you guys had a bunch of questions stacked for me. How does one look so out of place, Kindle, then remarkably turn it around in record time? Maybe scouts really do know what they are doing. Yeah. People, sometimes people get mad at me. Because I don't rip picks or prospects immediately. I generally give the benefit of the doubt to the team. Now, there are times when they obviously, are shoehorning something, or they are spitting one line publicly when they have to see the same thing you see. And I'll call that out. But in Kindle's case, yeah, I was just telling Edmonton radio, because they asked about him, that Kindle was bad in development camp the first week of July. I mean, he really didn't look particularly good. And first day of training camp, you don't pay too much attention because he's a project. And then by the third day, it's like, oh, look at this. Wow. Can I tell you something? I don't know what in the world people think I do all day. At 1 p.m., between 1 p.m. and now, when I started this show, 13 texts, and I had 0 before then today. 0. Everyone waits till I start the show and wants to talk to me. They're going to wait. But as I'm sitting here, my phone's like vibrating off the table, and I see it's nothing important. Nothing important. And a bunch of junk text as well. Let's get to somebody new here. Jim Hallis didn't understand playing both rookie defensemen again. Thought it may have been already understood. Don't do that. Team 1 with Dumba and swap in and out. I think that would have been a prudent strategy. But you do want, Brunicke to get a stretch of games together again. Let's go to Brandon. Dan, I'm not willing to throw in the towel on our playoff chances this year. Well, good Lord, why should you? 2 losses? They do happen. You didn't think the team was going to post an 800 winning percentage, did you? But looking at the lines from line rushes this morning, oof. What exactly do Broz and when exactly do Broz and Hayes get their chance? Yeah. If Noel Accari is on the shelf, I expected Hayes to be called up. If you're looking for a third line center, I expect, I don't understand exactly what the Penguins are doing on this one. To go veteran like that, I suppose an argument could be made that they're going to try one more time to showcase Heinen, Graves, to see what they can generate on the trade market. That's my only. That's all I can come up with, other than they're just playing it really safe, which this wasn't the season to play it safe. Let's go back to here, Drew. $1 million questions. What is this team and what's best for this team moving forward? What is this team? They don't know yet. The Penguins don't know who or what they are yet because they are in such a state of transition externally. Up on the Kyle Dubas level, they're in transition. On the ice, in the micro level, they're also in transition. As Erik Karlsson said to us the other day, we're still trying to figure out how we're going to play that and how we're going to defend. So the Penguins are still figuring out this Dan Muse system. They're still gelling as a team. So much is new. So many new faces, new coaches, new philosophies that they aren't formed yet. They don't have their identity yet. I've tried to ask, leading questions here or there of Muse, and I get a lot of, well, it's early. That's his favorite line with me. It's early. I've had to adjust my language to try to avoid getting that, that giving him the escape route. It's early. I suppose in his estimation, it is, because they're only 14 games into his entire tenure. There's still a lot more to figure out. And it wasn't like he could come in on day one of training camp and begin installing these things. He had 69 players to deal with, 30 plus of which had NHL experience or should have been in the NHL. So they had a lot of opportunity and a lot of ice they had to give to make the best possible decisions. Brandon comes back. I assume this is about Owen Pickering being positive and happy. Definitely tracks to ruffle some feathers with last year's coaching staff. We're going to just leave that alone. Zachary says, I feel Pickering is expandable. Do you mean expendable? I mean, maybe he could expand as well. I mean, maybe 2 sizes in the waist. Maybe he's going to add another 20 pounds. I think you mean expendable. He hasn't done anything that's grabbed your attention. He's soft. He just seems too sensitive. I don't think he's going to find his game in Pittsburgh. Interesting. Y'all go nuts over kids. Bring the kids, bring the kids, bring the kids. Not that kid. That kid's a number 1 draft pick. A left-handed defenseman with reach of a condor, good hockey IQ. I wouldn't call him soft. Not at all. I wouldn't call him soft. Let's go to Mark Malvisi. Hey, Dan, I see the Pens line rushes this AM has Kindle on the same line as Sid. Since that opens up the 3C spot, do you find it head-scratching they call up Heinen instead of giving Broz a chance? Absolutely. I should have read your question before I put it on the screen because we went over all of that. So I'm going to give Mark a rebound shot here. Also, different subject, might have missed an update on it, but what ended up happening with the land the Penguins owned around the arena? Did they end up losing it or file an extension? Good question. I wasn't able to do a follow-up story because all of the politicians and sources that came running to me when they found out I was going to write a story didn't call back. when the deadline was approaching. They didn't call back. I inferred from that, here's the answer to that, Mark. The Penguins gave it up. Said, fine. Told the URA, the Urban Redevelopment Authority, to which they have quarreled with quite a bit over the last 15 years. It's been a really complicated, almost personal, sort of personally strained relationship with the URA. And the Penguins said, fine, you take the land. Take it back. No extension filed. So the Penguins have indeed lost the exclusive development rights to that upside on the hill. I assume they have also lost all of the other undeveloped SEA land on the bottom side. You know, they've got the FNB tower, they've got the concert, they have some other developments underway. All they had to do was have begun the process of development with the other tracts of land. They did, they had on a few. The URA is probably something that is too complicated to really have a discussion on YouTube or the URA really put the onus on the Penguins to solve some of their own community problems or do some things for them that the city has failed for 75 years to provide. And and reason I didn't, and I wrote the story, I guess 6 weeks ago now, that got quite a bit of traction and conversation. And I really did my best to drive down the middle of that highway with cars coming past me on both sides. And I was kind of proud of myself that we succeeded. There were instances of the Penguins essentially giving the URA a boatload of money for a project that had nothing to do with the Penguins' relationship with them, and getting some blowback that it wasn't enough. The money getting rejected, and there was blowback on the type of development that the Penguins wanted to do in the past. But there was also some shortchanging the URA on the Penguins' part, that Mario and Ron Burkle created an entirely separate corporation to develop the land because they didn't want land development bleeding hockey revenues. And they didn't put a whole lot of money into that other corporation to develop things. This is why you really didn't see development on, around the arena while Mario still owned the team, because they just didn't see the big profit motive, effort versus reward on that wasn't there for them. So they kept the parking lots, made the money from the parking, and said, cool, we're okay with that. The Hill District, the URA was not. So there was just a lot of emotions and bad blood, and you know how breakups go, right? One person says this, the other person says the exact opposite, just almost reflexively. I kind of felt like that's where the Penguins and the URA were. Do I tell you I thought the URA was more at fault for that? That you don't rebuild Rome in a day. You can't just have the Hill District back to where it was in 1950 or 55 when it was a beacon of the country. Jazz clubs and blues clubs and some of the biggest acts and, vibrant culture. You can't just get all of that back in one day. And I just in talking to people who were pitching their point of view on that side, it felt like they blamed the Penguins. Going back to 1960 when they built the Civic Arena. It's like, and the city, for their part, well, if the city's not getting blamed, let's join them and blame the Penguins. Even though it's the city's fault, not the Penguins' fault. It wasn't the Penguins' fault until 2010. And even then, some businesses had been built, on some of that land that didn't work. Because it's a rough situation, and it's going to have to, it was torn down quickly, but it can't be rebuilt quickly. Let's go to Michael. I disagree on the trade aspect. I think the Pens will be interested in bringing somebody in that could help the team prior to the 75 days necessary for salary retention. Yeah, you're referring to the new NHL rules and the salary cap, and you can't just flip somebody and eat part of their salary like you used to do, and all of that. I'll have to refresh myself because I wrote all the stories on that in August when the edict came down from Mr. Bettman. No. No. The Penguins, you can disagree all you want, Michael, but you're not going to see the Penguins spending big assets to bring in big players. And I don't think you're going to see a lot of teams able to spend big assets to have a team like the Penguins eat salary. I think it's going to be too complicated. Those kinds of deals are going to take months unless one team just absolutely hits the floor and says, yep, fine, we surrender. Penguins aren't going to surrender. Not at 8-4-2, right? Let's go to Big Joe. A regular here on these live chats. Big Joe says, do you think the allure of one last ride for the big three is creeping in again, and the youngsters may have to wait? Yes, I do, Big Joe. I think that the chance to make Sidney Crosby happy, the chance to win. Look, Penguins fans have basically told the team we don't care. 13,000 tickets sold for the last few home games. So if they've announced, 13-2, 13-8, if they've announced that many, you can almost assure yourselves that there were 10 to 11,000 fans in attendance at these games. Now, I'm sure the Penguins, Kyle Dubas, were prepared to take some lumps this season. They were prepared for that. But if they can win some games and generate interest and get fans back in the building, thus money, yeah. I'm ready to go. Big Joe says, I'm ready to go as young as possible if they are ready to play or get their feet wet. Well, I suppose today or last night was a little bit of a dry towel on those wet feet, Heinen and Ryan Graves and so forth. Let's go to Kyle. Kyle has that professional, I think, Kyle, you're the CFP, right? Professional little headshot on your YouTube account. Excited to see how Murashov does. I saw flashes last year with Jarry in that Toronto game. Pickering looks out of place, which sucks because I like the kid. How do you see the depth stepping up? I don't know if they're going to play Murashov. I'm curious as heck about that. If they're going to run Shilovs out there for the next 3 weeks, every game, and just keep Murashov kind of on the bench, keep him hidden, keep him there for, backup purposes. Or they're like, all right, kid, you're tearing up the AHL. Let's see what you got. It could go either way. I really don't know. I don't know if Dan Muse addressed that at practice. I definitely told Shelley to be on watch for that. Let me check PittsburghHockeyNow.com as I say these things. Okay, no updated story yet. Come on, Shells. What are you doing? In fact, let me text her and say, what do you got coming? What did Muse say? There we go. Okay. I'm sure that'll add to my 14 text I have to read after the show. Leave me the hell alone. Text me after 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. Zachary says, thought they should have called up Hayes to run with Sid again. Just feels like a perfect winger for Sidney Crosby. No. You don't take a scrapper, a rookie like Avery Hayes, and dunk him in the deep water with Sid. Don't forget Zachary. I mean, part of what my job is to provide that 3D context to a lot of you. If you're playing with Sidney Crosby, you're not just playing in the offensive zone and trying to score goals. If it were that simple, yeah, give him a shot. But if you're playing with Sidney Crosby, you're also playing against the other team's top lines. You are playing hard minutes and a lot of hard minutes because the competition is A plus level. That is not something to ignore. Sure, you wanna see Avery Hayes score a bunch of goals beside Sidney Crosby and everybody's happy, but you don't wanna see the kid just out there chasing the other team's top line. That's a lot to ask of Avery Hayes. I mean, Hayes, I think can be an NHL player, but let's put him in proper perspective, 3rd or 4th line, when he's full on with Was I surprised with the decision at the ending of the Predators Wild game? I did see the highlight. Who was shot? Johansson. Nashville knocks the puck or knocks the net off the moorings. Johansson's shot hits the dislodged net, and they called it a goal. The puck would have hit the side of the net, though. Listen, what was the Justin Brazeau goal that was called off? Was it Minnesota? Philadelphia? I don't know. All of the games on that road trip just became a gelatinous blur for me. But when Davey was challenged, who was the defenseman that made the contact? Yeah, it was Jake Middleton. That was Minnesota. Jake Middleton's head hit Philip Gustafson, not Justin Brazeau. So, yeah, I don't think, Toronto's replays have been very good lately. Go to Logan. If Murashov looks as good in the NHL as he has in the AHL, and he goes on a run with the Penguins, what do you think they will do with Jarry Shelos when Jarry is healthy again? Boy, you're asking a lot there, Logan. You're asking a 20-year-old kid to reel off, a 925 save percentage in a dozen games in the NHL, if he looks as good in the NHL as the AHL. Well, bit of a competition gap there, isn't there? But let's take your hypothetical to the extreme and say it's possible. Um, I don't know what to do at that point. I honest to God, I think Murashov would go back to the AHL, before he would get exposed, unless he was showing them that he had fixed a couple of the tweaks they want. B, Sheloff be the next to go down or through waivers. I think, at that point, you go on waivers because you'd have to trade. You trade Sheloff if Murashov says, "This is my net," and you believe him, yeah, Sheloff would be the one to go. We know that Edmonton made a better offer to Vancouver than did the Penguins, but Vancouver didn't want him in the but Logan, I appreciate the rosy thinking. That's really rosy. Mark, hypothetical. Oh, okay, same question there. Let's get down to what we do here on live chat. I'm not asking Pickering for offense. Spell check got poor John here. It says, "I'm not asking picketing." It's yeah, listen, I'm not asking Pickering for offense. Give me defense first. Can't handle passes, can't dish the puck, can't keep pucks in the zone, can't anticipate angles to be where he needs to be defensively. Well, besides that, John, what do you think? He had a particularly rough few games. I don't agree with the severity of your assessments there because you also take into account the 25 games he played. So I also think he would have benefited. Look, he played well when they separated him from Brunicke in Winnipeg. He made one he made one mistake. He jumped forward, on the blue line, and that gave Winnipeg their 3rd goal. It's kind of a 2-on-1, 2-on-2 actually, because Allure raced back with Chris Letang, and they nullified it, but Letang was turned the wrong way. The puck was right through the skates, for an easy sort of tap-in goal. I attributed Pickering's jump forward to be just, a rookie mistake, but also one I've seen Chris Letang make 6,000,000 times and Erik Karlsson make 7,000,000 times. So I wasn't too down on him for that. He was fine with Chris Letang. There was predictability there. And that's the one thing that playing the rookie defenseman took away, and now the word comes to me, predictability, stability, and neither Pickering or Brunicke had that on that 3rd pairing. So that's another reason why I sort of find that demotion, a little bit, uh, bad. Uh-oh, is the audio going in and out? Let me I'll put on the headphones here, so if the audio is going out, I was also speaking low for effect, so it might have been just that. This software, I tell you what. Okay, Big Joe comes back. Do you think Kindle goes top 5 if the draft was redone today? Also, I see, Phil Horkoff is looking pretty good so far in Michigan. That is exciting. Yeah. Um, listen, I glowed up Horkoff after the rookie camp. Absolutely pumped his tires, to full capacity because I was so impressed with what I saw by Horkoff in July. I just really was. I couldn't believe the amateur draftniks had it ranked in the 40s. Skating was solid. I mean, his skating can be better, but the way he played the game, he had every look of an NHL player at only 18. Now, if he had spent 2 years at Michigan and played in the rookie camp in July, I would have like, okay, well, I kind of expect that, but he showed some polish, some real polish to his game early, and being 6'5" and 200 and what, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 200, whatever it is, somewhere, without me looking it up, he's over 200 pounds. Yeah, there's a lot to be excited there. I I think now that Bill Zonin hit the ice this week, was it this past weekend, he made his debut up in the queue, finally. I think there is a lot to like with Bill Zonin was the one that I was, most, optimistic about seeing quickly in Pittsburgh. Let's go to Steve. If you only play the kids on 3rd and 4th line, that's what they will become, grinders. I forget the Russian kid years ago, named first round pick. What happened to him, history will repeat. Alexei Morozov. Is this Mark Madden's burner account? That's the exact conversation I had with Double M a couple of weeks ago, because it was his exact contention as well. Uh, I no one's playing on the 4th line who doesn't deserve to be there. Do you think Ben Kindle is being shortchanged playing as a 3rd line center? No. Um, he's getting 13, 14 minutes of NHL ice time. He's playing in the top power play. He is getting some offensive zone starts. He's not playing like last season. Mike Sullivan really used his 3rd line in a defensive sort of role, which did not suit Kevin Hayes very well, but they did it anyway. Kindle is getting y y the game is only how you define it. The role is how you define it. And they haven't told Ben Kindle, "Go out there and be a plugger." Who was it, the Coyotes had a bet prospects a decade ago? less than that, probably 7, 8 years ago. Dave Tippett. And Dave Tippett's philosophy was, in order to be a star player, you first have to be a plugger, a plumber, a grinder. And it really did cut short Arizona's development, really, harmed the organization. And that was the wrong way to go about it. The Penguins aren't doing that to Ben Kindle. When you see Ben Kindle having 75% D zone starts and having to kill penalties and not getting power play time and really having to clean up the defensive zone almost as a matter of principle and exclusivity, then you were. Until then, he's playing with Philip Hollander and Ville Koivu. He was playing with some guys who knew how to play offense. They were in the offense. Don't look for problems to solutions. He's on the ice. He's playing 14, 15 minutes. Let it go. Gregory says, any injury updates on Rutger McGroarty and Yoel Blomqvist? Do you have one? All right, that is going to, I'm gonna put out the last call here. Last call for alcohol. Last call for questions, comments, and so on and so. I feel like we had a pretty good live chat. Lots of pace, lots of decent questions. I know a lot of you joined late. I see, actually, wow, 350 people right now watching this, which probably means I'll get it by tonight or tomorrow morning. A few thousand. Appreciate you. I guess I'll roll over to the top of the show and talk about the disappointment in sending down Owen Pickering. Because I think if you're going with the youth movement, here's a 21-year-old defenseman who needed to be, on the ice. Calling up Ryan Graves doesn't ring a bell. It doesn't do it for me. However, Sergei Murashov, yeah, that's interesting. No Tristan Broz, no Avery Hayes. Again, I think the totality of all of them, Graves and Heinen, tell us that the Penguins are now looking at the win column first and development second. Just how I'm seeing it. I'm going to stop with it's Nicker. What goalie plays against the Capitals? I would surmise, I would bet Archer's Sheila because it won't be Matt. I'm just saying. All right, kids, that is it for me. I appreciate all of you. Really, really I do. And we're putting out the back signal for PHN subscribers. I also owe my first 100, my original 100 PHN subscribers, an email about your T-shirt sizes. Last time I did that, I got so many, like I was inundated with all these subscribers saying, "Hey, my size is this, my size is that." Like, easy now. I'll send you the email. You all just relax. Y'all relax. I'll get to you. Everyone, they were getting T-shirts like the next day. It's going to take some time. I have to first of all get the right logo so that it fits on the T-shirt, and I have to design the T-shirt and do all of that. And if I'm being honest, it's coming out of my pocket, not the company. I don't feel like spending $2,000 to do it all at one shot, so I'm going to do it in piecemeals, 100 at a time, and another month, 100 at a time. Okay. All right. Fun. It's been a blast, and I suppose next video will be after the game Thursday night. I will be running to New Jersey back and forth. I'm actually going to do the Kings game on Sunday. Most of my colleagues are staying in New York and flying out of New York to Sweden. I'm an idiot. Oh no! Oh, great! Now that one troll is going to have. He's going to have another video. He's just going to post because I'm sure his mother fed him the generic spaghetti as a kid, and he hasn't gotten over it. I have to stop saying I have to stop being just self-effacing and having fun with you all because some schmuckle is going to use it against me. Anyway, I'm gonna make the drive back and forth out of Pittsburgh, adding hours to my trip and layovers for the Kings game on Sunday because all right. have